Smoke curled through the air like fingers searching for something to burn. The battlefield was quiet now, but only because most who stood here were dead. A human man knelt beside a broken structure, eyes sharp, body bruised but still alive. His name was Riker. No one expected him to survive the drop, let alone crawl out of the wreckage of his escape pod. But Riker didn't know how to quit. He hadn't meant to crash on Jarun 5. His mission had been clean: rescue data, escape quietly. But the alien interception fleet had hit harder than expected, and now here he was, hiding on a hostile planet with no backup and only a damaged comm link buzzing weakly on his hip. His breath came slow as he listened. Footsteps. Light. Calculated. Not human. He grabbed the shard of alloy beside him and waited. She appeared from the mist like a nightmare dressed in armor. Silver skin shimmered with faint blue light, tribal tattoos glowing faintly under the surface. Her eyes locked on his, golden and full of rage. She didn't speak, just lunged. Riker ducked, rolled, then twisted behind her. She moved with grace he'd never seen in a warrior. But she underestimated him. Everyone did. That's what saved his life. He caught her wrist, twisted, and brought her down hard onto the ground. Before she could recover, he pinned her with his body weight and held the shard to her throat. She hissed, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "I don't want to kill you," Riker said, panting. "You can't," she snapped back, though her voice shook. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. It wasn't mockery. It was amusement, genuine. And then she whispered, "You fight like a Tsar beast, wild, stupid, but somehow impossible to break." Riker slowly let her go, unsure if he should, but her body didn't attack again. She sat up, brushing dust off her armored legs, and looked at him like he was a puzzle that made no sense. "Why are you here? Human?" she asked. "Crashed. Wasn't part of the plan," Riker muttered. "You're not military," she said, scanning his gear. "No insignia, no rank, no implants. You're just human." "That's usually enough," Riker said, standing up. She rose with him, taller than he expected, close enough now that he could see the soft blue lines under her skin pulse with her heartbeat. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. A creature built for war but sculpted like art. "My name is Sayalari," she said finally. "You defeated me in combat. That means something to my people." Riker raised an eyebrow. "Like what? You going to eat me?" She tilted her head, confused. Then her face flushed with color, just slightly. She looked away. "No," she said. "It means I am yours now. Until you fall." He laughed at first. "You're kidding, right?" But she didn't smile. Her eyes held him firmly. "It is old law. I am yours to command. Until you fall, or I defeat you." Riker rubbed the back of his neck. "This day just keeps getting weirder." They walked together through the ruins, silence stretched between them. She didn't speak again, but she stayed close, watching him, studying him. He found a half-destroyed shelter and began fixing the signal booster. She sat nearby, not helping, just observing. He felt her eyes on him even when his back was turned. When the sun began to fall and the sky turned violet, Riker looked over at her. "I'm not your master," he said flatly. "You defeated me." "You're mine," she said, voice low. He shook his head. "I don't want ownership, I want peace." She looked down, then quietly answered, "Then teach me what that means." And for the first time, Riker wasn't sure who had truly won the fight. Riker woke up to the sound of metal shifting. It wasn't the wind this time, it was deliberate, careful. He grabbed the tool beside him and turned toward the noise, but it was just her, Sayalari, pulling a piece of collapsed wall away from the signal antenna he had been working on. "I thought you didn't want to help," he said, rubbing his eyes. "I observed," she replied calmly. "Now I assist." It was hard to tell if she was being kind or just obeying whatever strange warrior rule her people followed. But Riker didn't argue. He needed her strength, and she moved those heavy panels like they weighed nothing. Still, the silence between them was heavy. She hadn't brought up the bond again, he hadn't dared to. But every time she looked at him, there was something different in her eyes, like she was searching for something, or testing him. By midday, the signal was active. The light blinked, green. "Signal's up," Riker said. "Now I just wait for the relay to catch and send a beacon." Solari stepped beside him. "Will your people come for you?" He gave a short laugh. "Maybe, maybe not. Humans aren't big on rescue missions for guys like me." "Then why did you come here?" Riker paused, tightening a screw without looking at her. "Because someone had to. That data I came for? It has coordinates to a hidden lab making bioweapons, ones that can kill entire cities in seconds." Siluri's expression darkened. "My people do not make such things." "Maybe not your tribe," Riker said, "but someone on this planet is selling them." She looked away, clearly disturbed. "If this is true, then I will help you find it." Riker blinked. "What about your law? Aren't you supposed to serve me, not fight beside me?" She stepped closer and her voice lowered. "I said I am yours until you fall. That does not mean I follow like a shadow. I protect what is mine." There was no teasing in her words, only heat and tension. Riker felt his pulse spike. He looked away quickly, pretending to focus on his tools. She didn't move away. That night, they sat by a small heat lamp powered by Riker's portable core. The light danced across her metallic skin, her body half shadowed, half glowing. She wasn't wearing her helmet anymore. Her face was soft now, even curious. "Your kind is strange," she said. "You bleed, you bruise, you break, but you do not stop. Humans are good at being stubborn," Riker said with a smile. She touched her ribs where a bruise from their earlier fight still lingered. "You did this. It still hurts. I didn't know who you were. You tried to kill me. And now?" she asked, tilting her head. Riker leaned back. "Now? I'm not sure. You don't scare me, but you confuse me." She laughed lightly, and for the first time it wasn't sharp or mocking. It was warm. "Good. Confusion means thinking. That's the start of something real." Before he could answer, a distant boom echoed through the ruins. They both stood instantly. Lights flared in the sky. Ships. Not human. Not hers. She drew a blade from her leg strap. Riker grabbed his pistol. "They're scanning the ruins," he whispered. "Looking for something." "They're not from my clan," Solari said. "But they wear our armor. This is worse than we thought." Riker nodded. "That lab, it's not hidden anymore." She looked at him with fire in her eyes. "Then we burn it down." And without another word, they ran side by side into the shadows, where war was waiting once more. The ruins stretched ahead like a maze of broken bones. Crushed buildings, shattered drones, and scorched metal filled every direction. Riker crouched low, eyes locked on the patrol passing through the shadows. Beside him, Solari moved like a ghost. Silent, deadly, graceful. Her skin shimmered faintly under the blue glow of the night. "They have cloaking armor," Riker whispered. "Hard to track without heat vision." "I can smell them," Solari replied softly. "They stink of chemicals and false pride." She tapped her temple and her eyes adjusted, scanning for traces. Riker trusted her senses more than any scanner. She was born for this world. He was just surviving it. They moved fast through the ruins, ducking between pillars and fallen ships. Riker carried his makeshift rifle while Solari held a double-bladed spear that hummed with energy. It was too quiet. The enemy was organized now, and that meant they were close to something important. Finally, they saw it. A structure that hadn't been here before. Hidden behind rock and wreckage, it pulsed with green light and thick armored walls. Guard posts circled it like teeth around a wound. "That's the lab," Riker said. Solari narrowed her eyes. "There are too many guards. We need a distraction." He looked around, then grinned. "I have an idea. You won't like it." "I already don't like it," she said. He moved before she could argue. Riker slid down the slope, grabbed a fuel cell from a broken drone, and jammed it into a cracked engine core. Then he pulled back and fired a single round into it. The explosion lit up the sky. Guards scattered. Sirens blared. The structure's side defense units activated and turned toward the blast. But Riker was already gone, running toward the opposite side with Salari at his side. Inside, the lab was cold and smooth, too clean, too perfect. Rows of stasis chambers lined the halls. Some were filled with bodies, aliens with strange features, hybrids, and even twisted creatures that barely looked alive. Sayalari stopped, her hand trembling as she stared through one of the chambers. "They used our DNA," she whispered. "This is not war. This is butchery." Riker scanned a nearby console. The data pulsed green, and a small light blinked on. "The files are here. Coordinates, shipments, signatures. We can prove who's behind this." Before they could download, a voice echoed from the chamber behind them. "You shouldn't be here." A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. He wore high command armor, polished and cold. His eyes were the same gold as Sayalari's. His face almost matched hers. "Brother," she said, her voice cold. "You brought a human into our sacred ground," he sneered. "You should have died with honor." Riker raised his weapon, but the man was fast. In a flash, he was on them. Sayalari blocked the first strike, her blade clashing with his. Sparks flew. Riker fired twice, but the energy shield held. Brother and sister fought with fury. Every strike was personal, every movement painful. Riker watched, ready to intervene, but Sayalari didn't back down. "You betrayed our blood," she said through clenched teeth. "You turned us into monsters." "No," he growled. "I evolved us. You're too soft. You let a human command you." "I chose to stand with him," she hissed. "He fights for what matters." With one clean spin, she dropped low and sliced across his knee. He stumbled. Riker stepped in and cracked the butt of his rifle across the commander's head. He collapsed, breathing hard. Salari stood over her fallen brother. "He won't stop," Riker said. "They'll come back." "Then we leave no trace," she said. "This place burns." They downloaded what they could and planted charges across the lab. As the countdown began, Salari turned to him. "You keep changing everything I know. Human." Riker gave her a tired smile. "You're changing me too." They ran as the lab exploded behind them, lighting the sky with fire. It wasn't over. But they had just taken the first real step toward something bigger than war. The flames behind them rose high into the alien sky. Smoke curled upward, blotting out the stars. Riker and Salari didn't look back as they disappeared into the shattered hills surrounding the destroyed lab. Their bodies ached, lungs burned, but their mission was finally gaining shape. They stopped beneath a rock arch where the wind couldn't reach. Salari dropped to one knee, clutching her side. Blood trickled from a cut under her armor. "You're hurt," Riker said, crouching beside her. "It's nothing," she replied, wincing. "He missed my core, just bruised." Riker frowned. "Let me see." She hesitated, then unlatched part of her chest armor. Beneath the metallic plating, her skin was softer than he expected, faintly glowing with those tribal patterns. The bruise was spreading. "I've seen this before," Riker said. "Radiation from unstable hybrid chambers. Your cells are reacting to exposure. Will it kill me?" "No," he answered. "But it'll slow you down." She grunted. "Unacceptable." He reached into his pack and pulled out a small injector. "Hold still." She flinched as the needle pressed into her side, then relaxed. A quiet moment passed between them. She looked up at him, eyes softer than before. "You treat me like I matter," she whispered. "Even after all this." "You do matter," Riker said, voice steady. "Not because of some ancient law or fight, because you made a choice to stand with me." She looked away quickly, cheeks flushing. "Then stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm not a soldier." Riker smiled. "You're more than that, even if you don't believe it yet." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, like something unspoken sat between them, waiting. The next morning, they began climbing toward the transmission ridge. If they could reach the old satellite array, Riker could send the stolen data to the nearest outpost. Proof of the illegal lab. Proof of her brother's betrayal. And maybe, just maybe, hope for something better. But they weren't alone. Drones hovered in the distance. Black-armored hunters scanned the hills, searching, and they were getting closer. "We're out of time," Riker said. Sayalari nodded. "Then we don't run. We strike." They waited in the ridge's shadow as the nearest drone passed overhead. Riker counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. He leapt out and fired. The drone burst in sparks. Sayalari dashed from cover and brought down the second with a spinning spear throw that pierced its core. More arrived. 6, maybe 10. They moved together, a storm of speed and instinct. Riker covered her from behind, his rifle picking off targets. She fought like a living weapon, blades slicing through machines like silk. Her movements weren't just powerful, they were beautiful. Wild and smooth at the same time. But one drone clipped Riker's shoulder. He stumbled, dropped his weapon. A second rushed in. Sayalari turned with a snarl and slammed into it, tearing it apart with both hands. Sparks lit her face. Her breathing was heavy. Her hair was wild. She looked down at him, chest rising and falling. "Are you injured?" she asked. "Just shaken," he said. "Then rise. I won't carry you." He stood, grinning. "Didn't think you would." They reached the satellite dish just before dusk. Riker began the upload. The signal was slow but steady. Sayalari stood watch beside him, muscles tense. "Once this goes through," Riker said, "they'll come. All of them. Then we will face them," she answered. He looked at her, truly looked at her. Not as a warrior, not as an alien, but as someone who had risked everything beside him. "Sayalari," he said carefully, "you're not just part of this mission. You're the reason it still matters." She turned and her expression shifted, just for a second. Her face softened, eyes full of emotion she didn't know how to name. She stepped closer, leaned in, near his ear and whispered, "After this, you'll answer for what you've done to me." And before he could ask what that meant, she walked off into the shadows, leaving him breathless. The message had been sent. Riker watched the final bar on the transmitter blink green. He knew someone would receive it, either human command or someone sympathetic to the truth. The data exposed everything, the illegal bioweapons, the experiments, Sayalari's own brother, but it also marked their position like a flare in the night. Sayalari stood at the edge of the ridge, staring out over the empty plains. Her back was straight, arms folded, but her mind was restless. Riker could feel it, in the way she breathed. "You okay?" he asked, stepping beside her. She didn't answer right away. The wind caught her silver hair and lifted it gently. "I don't know what happens after this," she said. "Neither do I," Riker replied. "But I know what should happen." "You think justice will come?" she asked, her voice hollow. "You think truth will win?" "I think people will see what you risked, what you chose." She looked at him then, truly looked at him. "You confuse me, Riker. Your people confuse me. You're weaker, slower, and yet you stand like you can't be broken." He smiled. "That's the trick. We're already broken. That's why we fight harder." She took a step closer, close enough that he could see the tiny glowing lines in her skin brighten slightly. "You've changed me," she whispered. "And I hate it." "Why?" "Because I don't want to need anyone." He nodded slowly. "I didn't come here to be needed. I came to stop a war, but somehow I think I found someone worth staying for." Her breath caught. For a moment she looked like she might strike him. But then her fingers brushed against his chest, just briefly, before she pulled away. Before either of them could speak again, the sky lit up with descending ships. Enemy, dropships, hundreds. Their conversation vanished under the roar of engines. Riker grabbed his rifle and turned toward the satellite platform. They tracked the signal. Sayalari didn't flinch. She activated the small beacon she carried and nodded toward a nearby canyon. There's an old tunnel network. We can lose them, but we have to move now. They ran, through broken hills, across rusted ground, down into darkness. The tunnels were ancient, older than either of them expected. Alien carvings lined the walls. Sailari slowed at one symbol, touching it gently. This place belonged to my ancestors, before the clans split, before the wars. Looks sacred, Riker said, catching his breath. It was. They moved through the winding paths until they reached a chamber with a round ceiling and glowing crystals embedded in the walls. It pulsed with a soft hum. Sailari sat on the stone floor and finally let herself breathe. Riker sat across from her. Do they know about this place? No, she said. It was hidden. My mother told me stories about it. I thought they were myths. He looked around. It's peaceful here, for once. She closed her eyes. I don't know what to be now. I am no longer just a warrior. I am not their tool anymore. You're whatever you choose to be, Riker said. That's the human way, that's why we fight. When her eyes opened again, they were softer than he had ever seen. She crawled closer. No armor, no weapon, in hand. Just her. I still don't understand why you make my heart race, she whispered. Riker leaned forward, brushing his fingers against her cheek. Maybe you don't have to understand it. Their foreheads touched, and the silence between them felt like the only truth left in the universe. But deep beneath the peace, somewhere in the dark, machines were moving. The enemy wasn't done, and neither were they. The stillness of the hidden chamber didn't last long. Sailari stood up first, her posture tense. The ancient crystal walls around them began to vibrate with low pulses. Riker raised his head and listened. The sound wasn't natural. It was mechanical. They've found a way in, she said. Not possible, Riker replied. You said this place was lost. It was. But now they follow our scent. My brother knows how I move. He'll use every drone and dog to dig through rock if he has to. Riker packed up his gear, then turned to her. We can fight them. We have cover. You know these tunnels. Sailari shook her head. Not this part. This chamber was the last one in the old tales. After this, even my people feared what lay below. Riker gave a tired smile. Then I guess we find out if the stories were true. They moved quickly, deeper into the unknown. The carvings on the walls turned more detailed. Scenes of alien, warriors kneeling before bright stars, strange creatures wrapped in chains. At one point, the tunnel opened into a black chasm so wide it felt like the planet had been hollowed from within. Sailari stopped. There's something living down there. Riker stepped beside her, flashlight scanning the pit. At first, it looked like stone, but then it moved. Massive, quiet, watching. Whatever that is, Riker whispered. We stay away from it. But the path forward curved just above the edge of the creature's resting place. No choice, no way back. They moved in silence. Halfway across, the comm unit on Riker's belt clicked. A voice came through. Riker, if you can hear this, this is Lieutenant Runa, Outpost Delta 7. We received your signal. You're not alone down there, are you? He tapped the device. Lieutenant, I'm with an alien ally. Repeat, she is not hostile. I have the data. Static broke the reply. Then a new voice came through. Male. Cold. You should not have sent that data, brother. Sailari froze. Riker clenched his fists. He hijacked the signal. The brother's voice returned. You woke something ancient and you think you'll walk out of that tomb as heroes? Sailari stepped forward and pressed the comm. We'll walk out alive. You can't stop that. The signal died. Silence returned. Then the creature below shifted again. Slowly, its eye opened. Riker pulled Sailari back just in time. A massive tendril rose from the pit and slammed where they had just been standing. The ground cracked. It's waking up, Sailari gasped. I thought it was a myth, Riker said. So did I. The two of them ran along the wall as the ancient being roared behind them, dust falling from every surface. Sailari's foot caught, but Riker grabbed her hand and pulled her forward. They burst into another tunnel, just as the chasm collapsed behind them. Panting, Riker leaned against a wall. Sailari looked down at their joined hands, then slowly pulled hers back. "You didn't let me fall," she whispered. "You never let me either." Their eyes locked. Her voice was soft now. "I don't understand what you've done to me." Riker stepped closer. "You're not just a soldier anymore. I can't walk straight when I think about you," she whispered. He blinked. "What?" She flushed. Her voice dropped to a growl. "You changed my body, my mind. Everything aches when I see you. It's like my instincts are confused." Riker reached for her cheek. She didn't stop him this time. "Maybe that's just what happens when you trust someone," he said. She leaned into his touch for a moment, then turned away quickly. "We have to keep moving. If my brother wakes the creature fully, this planet dies." Riker nodded. "Then we stop him." They didn't speak again as they prepared for the next battle, but their hearts were already changed forever. The tunnels were no longer safe. The rumbling beneath their feet hadn't stopped. Whatever ancient beast had stirred in the pit was awake now, and its hunger was spreading. The walls of the old temple cracked with each breath it took. The air itself felt thicker. Sailari pressed her hand to a glowing panel near the next archway. Symbols lit up in sequence. She was reading them like a code. "It says this place was built to imprison it," she whispered. "Not worship it. My ancestors feared this thing." Riker looked back, clutching his rifle. "Then your brother just became the galaxy's biggest fool." They stepped into a new chamber, massive, circular, with spiraling steps that led down into a glowing core. At the center, a crystal orb hovered above a wide platform. Energy danced across its surface like trapped lightning. Sailari stared at it with wide eyes. "This is the seal, the final lock. If it breaks, the creature below will rise." "And I bet your brother is on his way to do exactly that," Riker said. They didn't have to wait long. A tremor shook the chamber. Then the sound of marching echoed from above. Soldiers, clad in black battle armor, dozens of them. At the center stood her brother, cold, determined, eyes glowing with ambition. "I offered you legacy," he shouted. "You chose a human. I chose freedom," Sailari replied, stepping forward. "You abandoned your kind." "No," she growled. "You did." He raised his hand. The soldiers opened fire. Riker pulled Sailari behind a fallen pillar. Laser. Blast slammed into the walls. Crystal shards exploded around them. The seal trembled from the vibrations. "We can't hold them here," Riker shouted. "We don't have to," Sailari replied. "We just need to distract them." She broke cover, spinning her spear and slamming it into the ground. A shockwave pulsed outward. Half the soldiers stumbled. Riker leapt from the side and fired in quick bursts, dropping two before they could recover. But her brother wasn't stunned. He charged, energy blade drawn. Riker moved to intercept, but Sailari waved him off. "No, this is mine." Their blades clashed in the center of the chamber. Sparks danced around them like fireflies. She fought with precision, but he was stronger now, augmented. His strikes were brutal. "You were always the weaker one," he snarled. "Then why am I still standing?" she fired back, blocking another swing. Riker covered her flank, shooting down advancing soldiers. He was outnumbered, but not outmatched. Every movement he made was quick, smart, and just chaotic enough to keep them off balance. Suddenly, the crystal seal cracked. Everyone froze. A deep growl echoed from below. Dust fell from the ceiling. One more blast and the chamber would fall. Apart, Riker glanced at Sailari. "We need to stop the seal from breaking. I can't hold him and the seal at once. Then I'll hold him." Riker stepped into the brother's path and tackled him. They tumbled across the platform, fists slamming into armor. The alien commander roared, throwing Riker into a pillar. But Riker stood again, blood on his lip. "You think power makes you right?" Riker growled. But it only makes you blind. The commander charged again. Sayalari turned to the seal, placing both hands on its surface. Her veins glowed, patterns racing up her arms. The orb pushed back, painfully. She screamed, but she held on. Riker fought. To keep her brother from reaching her. Blow after blow, he refused to fall. He fought like a man who had nothing left to lose, except her. Finally, with one last pulse of energy, Sayalari sealed the orb again. The glow faded. The growl below turned to silence. The creature slept once more. Her brother collapsed, unconscious from Riker's last strike. She dropped to her knees, chest heaving. Riker rushed to her, pulling her into his arms. "You did it," he said softly. Her eyes met his. "No. We did." The chamber was quiet again. Dust floated in the air, gently falling over the bodies of unconscious soldiers. The crystal seal no longer pulsed with danger. The ground no longer shook. The monster beneath the world had been calmed. For now. Riker sat beside Sayalari, both of them breathing hard. The fight had left them bruised and exhausted, but alive. His arm was cut. Her legs trembled beneath her. Neither spoke for a long time. Then Sayalari broke the silence. "I thought if I ever made it out of this war, I'd be alone. That's what warriors expect." Riker looked at her, a small smile on his face. "Good thing I'm not a warrior." She chuckled softly, even though pain laced her voice. "No, you're something worse. You care too much." "And that's what saved you," he said. She turned her gaze to him fully now. No armor, no weapons, no distance. "You confuse me," she whispered again. "And yet, you're the only thing that feels clear." He leaned in closer, brushing the edge of her silver hair behind her ear. "You don't need to understand it," he said. "You just need to feel it." Sayalari didn't pull away. Their lips met in a slow, hesitant kiss. Not a victory kiss. Not a celebration. It was something softer. Something real. Two survivors sharing what little peace they could find in a broken galaxy. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead on his. "My people will come for my brother," she said. "He will face judgment. He deserves it." "But what about us?" she asked, her voice trembling now. "They'll never accept this. You and me." Riker took her hand. "Then we don't ask them to accept it. We show them what it means. You changed the future by stopping him. We can change more." "You really believe that?" she asked. "I do. And if they try to separate us, they're going to learn what humans do when something matters." Sayalari's lips curved into a fierce, proud smile. "They'll fear you," she said. "Good," Riker replied. "Then we'll finally have something in common." Outside the ruined chamber, transport ships finally arrived. Not enemy ones this time. Human rescue teams, allied factions. Word of the data had spread fast. Sayalari's people had splintered, many realizing they had been betrayed. The war was changing. As soldiers lifted her brother's unconscious body onto a stretcher, Riker stood beside Sayalari at the edge of the landing platform. One of the human officers approached with caution. "She's with you? She saved your world?" Riker replied. "Treat her with the same respect you'd treat me." The officer nodded slowly, unsure, but not questioning. Later that night, in a temporary camp beneath a quiet alien sky, Sayalari sat beside a small campfire while Riker worked on sealing his shoulder wound. She glanced at him, her voice low. "You, remember what I said when you pinned me down?" "Yeah," Riker said with a grin. "You said I fought like a beast." "No. After that, when I told you I belonged to you," he looked over, serious now. "I never wanted to own you," he said. "Only to stand beside you." She moved closer. "I'm tired of standing alone," she whispered. Riker opened his arms. She stepped into them. The galaxy had changed that day. Not with ships, not with war, but with two people who had every reason to hate each other, and instead chose something new: love. And from that day on, when soldiers told the story of the seal, the creature, and the fallen commander, they also spoke of the alien woman who walked away from war with a limp, a smile when a human's hand in hers.